Learning to walk again is what I want to talk to you about. This is going to be short but super sweet. So let's kick it off the right way. But I want to tell you a story, and this story it happened about 9 years ago. And for those who don't know me, 9 years ago I had a double knee replacement, and that's where this special talk. I say it's special because I'm still learning from it. So about 9 years ago, I was at a young age of 49. I say young because most doctors will not do knee replacements if you're younger than 50. So by age 49, I had wore the treads off of my legs doing construction, and I was in need of a double knee replacement. Now, this wasn't a quick decision. I had surgeries before that, hoping to avoid the replacements, but nevertheless, there I was. Now, that's not the meat of the story. I need to tell you that to tell you what I believe this talk, the value of this conversation really lies. And there's a lot there's just so much I learned personally as a person, and I grew through that experience. It was incredible. I learned who real friends were. The value of family was incredible. My mom had moved into Chicago to support me at the time, and there was just so much I can share regarding that. But I want to leap forward to the specific time that I am referring to. And let me just tell you one incident, for example, and how rich this was. The surgery was a success. The surgery was a success. Let me just show you. I have a picture here. And that's 2 hours after the surgery, and I was not happy. They force anyone that's had the knee replacements, whether it's one or two, you know this, that they force you almost immediately to get up and walk, and that is to avoid blood clots. And after that, I have remembered going home and the events surrounding that. I could spend an hour speaking about this. It was an adventure. I was home. I finally got the home care. It took some time, some days, that I was supposed to receive. And home care means you get a nurse who comes by and takes care of the basics for you. Well, the time it took for me to get my nurse was longer than normal, and eventually I did get that nurse. And just to give you a quick picture of the state of mind I was in, and so on, because it was traumatic. I by the time this nurse had showed up in my life and to help my family out, I was pretty much convinced I had just made the worst decision of my life, and I had destroyed my own life and maybe destroyed my family. I was a mess. I was a hot mess. Day one of my home care, the nurse looked at me and asked me, "Have you walked yet?" Now, aside from that picture I just showed you, the answer to that question was no. Because I didn't know I could. I didn't know I should. And I just saying this, just an example of how rich this moment was in my life, that I was blown away. My life at that moment just opened up. I looked at her and literally with tears saying, I didn't know I could. And she just looked at me. She goes, "Really?" She goes, "Do you want to walk right now?" And as if Jesus the Messiah had walked into the room. This is how big this was. I said yes. And so she had a special belt that they wear so that the patients can hold on, and so she strapped me up, and I walked for the very first time unassisted. And that was just an example. But that's not what this talks about. I want to fast forward. I got to show you another picture. This was me after I learned I should be walking, how I looked. Now, it was pretty comical. I was looking for a picture of me on a bicycle. I wasn't supposed to be on one. But once I was told I should be walking, the sky was the limit for me. The world before me opened up in ways I did not imagine. I had lost so much hope by that time that when she spoke those words, it spoke life to me. And maybe I needed to tell that to you because maybe there's people that will hear this and need to hear it. There are things that we face and we don't realize that we need to hear somebody tell us, hey, have you tried starting over again? Have you tried getting up on your own yet? But let me fast forward. In this story, about a year later, by this time I had gone through the recovery. I had done all the rehabilitation I was supposed to do that was prescribed to me. There was 2 different types of rehab that I had to do, and I mastered them. I want to be honest with you, I mastered them. My range of motion was far more than most people would have, and I had high aspirations. I just want to let you know that I approached it aggressively. I wanted to be able to have normal range of motion in my legs. I was told that most, especially men, usually only settle for 90-degree bending of the knee, which is basically sitting down. But most men would not aspire to get their legs to bend further than that. I went way past that, and both knees. And I'm going to tell you that this part of the story is incredibly important because there was a moment about a year later, I can't remember where it was, who it was that was involved with me except my wife, and the exact words, because of what happened overshadows it so greatly. And about a year later, I was somewhere with my wife, and I ran into someone who apparently I had not seen in a while, and something was said that made me aware of this problem I had. I did not know I had. And that is that they realized I still had a limp, a really significant waddle to my walk. My gait was not anything normal. I didn't know that. I had gone through rehabilitation. I was working in construction again. I was doing all the normal things that I used to do. I did not know how to walk right. I thought I was walking perfectly normal. And I remember looking at my wife and asking her, say, honey, is that true? Am I not walking correctly? And she looked at me and said, no, you still walk a little funny. And that is what this talk is about. I had not, let me just put it in. When the doctors told me the surgery was a success, I did not realize that was just the beginning of my journey. I was entering a new level in the process of being made whole. But I did not know that after the surgery, that was a success. In other words, I was healed. That I still had to, even after the rehabilitation and getting the strength back, there was still something missing in my life. And there's a spiritual thing here that I am still learning from today. And even as I enter 2025, I'm excited about it. And that's why I'm talking to you. See, the reason I couldn't walk correctly wasn't because I wasn't healed. It was because I needed to learn to walk again. I had to learn to walk because I forgot how to walk like someone who didn't have an injury. I want you to hear clearly what I'm speaking about. There's something spiritual attached to this. I had to learn to walk because all I knew how to do at the time was to walk as someone who was still injured. I knew how to limp walk. because of prior I had pain. So I learned to limp walk, to accommodate my pain, to compensate for my limitations. I had adapted. I had adapted to the injury. I had adapted to the weaknesses. I want you to hear this. There's something profound in this. And here's the thing. Even though the surgery was a success, the complete manifestation of my healing was trapped behind a limp that I had taught myself. And I wasn't even aware of it. I wasn't aware of it. Now, I know I'm speaking about a physical injury that I personally went through, but especially this past year, the Lord revealed to me that this is something that happens to us, not just in the physical. My mind had to be renewed so that my actions could follow the new path and new pattern that I was made capable of walking. Look, let me just say it this way. This could be something that we could experience not just physically, but we can experience it emotionally. We can experience this type of trauma relationally. I believe we can experience this even spiritually. If you've been in the faith long enough, I'll get to that in a second. But if the experience, the event you've went through was severe enough that what you consider normal was taken from you. Maybe it was a relationship that you thought you would have till you die, and now that's changed. Maybe it is a physical ailment. Maybe there was a spiritual fall. Maybe you're a person who gave your heart to the Lord a long time ago, and then you had an incredible moral failure that wiped out the world you knew. I know a lot of people like that. Maybe they were in leadership and now they're not. Whatever it was, the normal is gone. What's left is how we've learned to adapt. What's left is the methods of compensation we've embraced when it comes to relationships, when it comes to the physical ailment we had, when it comes to the emotional distress, when it comes to the spiritual failure. What we know is the compensation we've trained ourselves in to help us with the weakness, to help us with the hurt, to help us with the pain. That's what I'm speaking to. What I'm saying is that maybe, like me, you're suffering with something on your side, and maybe what I learned, you can learn from also. What I learned in that moment is that I had prayed, and this was a huge event in my life. It was a double knee replacement. I'm a person who works with my hands. I do construction and remodeling. Not having legs is a big deal. I'm sure I don't have to get into more detail than that. And again, I'm not just talking about a physical thing. And I got the surgery I needed. I did. I got exactly what I needed. I didn't have insurance, so this is a big deal. So now I have the surgery. Now I have the repair, the fix. I got the healing. But the complete manifestation of my healing was concealed. It was on, let me just say it this way. The complete manifestation of my healing is waiting for me now on the other side of restoration. To me, I thought that restoration was just physical, but it was not. Some of our current relationships are struggling because of a limp we've emotionally adapted to. We've had previous relationships that were disasters, and now We've moved on, but we're not the same. Relationships after that are not the same. I'm talking to you. Some of us, like I said, maybe thought you would be conquering the world in your faith, maybe evangelizing. You had setbacks, moral failure came in. You're still in the faith, but that dream is gone. You can't see yourself there anymore. I'm talking to you. I want to introduce this idea to you that perhaps you have not considered. We will pray God to please do something new. And I want you to entertain this idea, and this is what the Lord taught me in this event. He brought me new. I just didn't know that the new he was going to provide was going to be baby new. Let me just explain. I remodel a lot of homes. I do a lot of kitchens and so on and so forth. I'll do a kitchen for someone and I provide a new kitchen when I'm done. I'll get another contract and there's another new kitchen. Now, granted, the project is different, but for me, I'm already well-versed and rehearsed in what to do next. Even though it is a new kitchen for that person, that is not what I'm talking about. Baby new is what I'm talking about. In other words, this is something that's going to require a whole new level of development, learning, the whole process, starting over from beginning. Why is this important? I believe it's important because there's things that cut us deeply enough that we will benefit from learning new again, baby new. All the compensation, all the hat tricks to make up for my weaknesses and my limitations don't help baby new. You understand me? And that's what I think. Let me just give you a passage here that you might be surprised that I decided to use this passage, but it's Romans chapter 12, verse 2. It says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Now, you might be surprised I'm using that scripture, but that passage speaks volume because first it highlights for you and me that transformation is always connected to renewal. Transformation is always connected to renewal. And I just want you to think, but this is what this just jumped out at me, and I don't know if you get it, but in this passage, it's telling you that once we allow ourselves to be renewed and experience transformation, that you and I will be able to test and approve what God's will is. And that is the game changer. That's what happened to me. When I was exposed to the reality that I was not renewed, my mind had not caught up with the rest of my process. I had done the rehab and all that. And because my mind was not caught up, my physical gait was not able to follow suit. My physical gait stayed with whatever my mind, the level of my mind was at. And this applies to everything in our life. So this word to test, it means to prove, to examine, to distinguish by testing, to recognize. That is the game changer. I was not able to recognize what I was capable of doing because I had not stopped and said, hey, Carmelo, you need to be deliberate about instructing your body how to move. It was not a big process. It was literally just this mindset that changed. It was a mindset that changed, and I just want to tell you that the moment I realized it, it was the moment that things began to change. Things began to change. Transformation is tied to the renewal of the mind. God provided the healing, but my mind didn't know how to steward the new healed body that I was given. I wasn't able to test or recognize what God was doing. And this is where I want you to just grab a hold of this that I'm sharing with you, because some of us want strong, healthier bodies, We want restored relationships. We want rescued finances, but we hinder what God provides for us by relying on an unrenewed mind in the area that needs healing, instead of focusing on making sure that our minds are up to speed with the new work. Amen. I would suggest that it's completely possible that you are not aware that you are limping in the area of those circumstances that you're asking God to heal. And your complete healing, the complete work of God, is waiting for you. Is waiting for you on the other side of renewal. You won't be able to see it until you get to the process of renewing your mind. You won't be able to test it. You won't be able to prove it until you take the time and say, wait, I believe God answered my prayer the moment I asked. Now I need to get this caught up with what God's doing. The old version of that does not have the capacity to steward the new work that God's doing in my life. I just believe that God is faithful. Perhaps the healing, the full manifestation, the full work in me being able to have good, healthy relationships, whatever it is, it's trapped behind a limp. And now I need to let the Word of God change that part of me. Now, there are two approaches to healing. Two approaches. And I believe this for everybody. The first approach to healing is speculation. And I hope you're hearing this. I just feel God on this word. Speculation. That is the person that said, I don't know. Do I feel it? Do I feel it? Is it there? Is it there? You're wondering. Or the second response is believe. And that's this picture here that I just show you again. Believe. This was the guy who was told, you can walk. And this was the guy that believed. Now, granted, it was assisted. But the moment I believed, you couldn't stop me. Every day I was out there. Every day I was doing the work. And I just want to make sure that my camera is up to speed. Sorry, guys. And every day I just continued to advance. The moment I believed, I went from despair to motivation. That's what changes. There was an adventure. This is how I knew something in me changed. Some of us are just thinking that if it isn't instant, it isn't God. But I learned that God really wanted me to learn. It was really important for me to learn how to walk again. Maybe that's where it is for you. There was a motivation. There was an adventure. There was an excitement in my journey now. I was learning. I was learning correctly. There was a gratitude. I was grateful. I was cautious about protecting my healing. Amen, Lisa, I see you. I was cautious. I protected it. If I had not embraced the idea of renewing my mind, I would still be limping. I would still be limping. And that's, I think, why I'm really sharing this. Some of you are out there and you're getting along. Relationships, you're getting by. Maybe financially the struggle, you're making it. God is merciful. Whatever it is. But there's a key here that I want to leave you with. How do you embrace this journey that includes a work of God that is actually baby new? God's giving you something. It's just so new. Nobody else is probably going to recognize it, but it's yours. It needs to be cared for like a baby would be cared for. It needs to be developed like a baby requires development. It starts tenderly, cautiously, but it's real. There was a word the Lord gave me. He said, treat it like a seed. And I thought about that. I said, what do you mean? He said, the seed. When a seed is planted, nobody sees it. Nobody else can see that you planted it. No one's going to come by and celebrate that you planted the seed, but you know the seed is there. You take care of it. You protect it. You make sure that the birds don't eat it. Treat it like a seed. It's the same thing, baby new. New requires something from you and me. If you want to see this work, if you want to see the full manifestation of God's faithfulness, because I believe he's faithful, it means you and I need to embrace the unknown. If it's baby new, that means there's a lot of unknown in it. It's difficult to be someone who speculates at the same time of embracing unknown. When you say, okay, it's new, it's so new, I just need to learn. I need to learn everything. I just need to learn everything. I've never had this kind of work done in my life. So I'm not going to assume I know what to do. I'm going to learn everything I need to know. And that's the secret, I believe, that really changed my life. We got to become students of God's new work to experience the transformation in whatever area of life you got healing going on. You and I must welcome the idea that new can be baby new. That the new that God provided, the answer is literally baby new. And you have been entrusted to be a steward of this new work in your life. I hope this has blessed you. Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate that. I just want you to take these words. I can't get to every specific, but I just knew there's enough value in that lesson that perhaps you can apply it to areas in your life that are just appear to be sticking. And you're like, I have some semblance of God's work, but it's like, man, it's not like what I thought, and I don't know, and it's up and down, it's in and out. It's like a wave. Back up and go, wait a minute. Maybe it's because the old version of me is trying to steward the new version of what God's doing in my life, and that doesn't work. Become a student. Learn it. Say, God, teach me. I'm not going to treat this thing like I know what I'm doing. This is a gift from you. Maybe in your healing, in your relation, whatever it is. And I'm going to tell you something. You're going to discover something like I did. You're going to become this guy in the picture with a big grin on your face going, I know that I'm going to walk like a new man again. That's my story about learning how to walk again, and how till this day, I am learning that lesson and applying it to different parts of my life. I'm 57 years old and I'm still gleaning from it. And I hope it blesses you. God bless you. Share this with somebody you love, and we'll bye.